As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'm gonna roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road, lights, camera, action, I'm ready to go. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Yeah, this is my road, lights, camera, action, I'm ready to go. Way too long, we faced them storms, now you gon' face the dawn you waited for. I said from night to dawn, I right my wrongs alone. In competition with warnings, ice galore. Now I'm running toward it, my lights are finished, being a quitter.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Harry, good morning, everybody. Harry was kind of prompting me, and it's about 10:05, so I do apologize for starting 5 minutes late, but I was pontificating prior to going on air, so we'll make it up to everybody, and it's just such a pleasure to have Sean On Deck Reeves here, Eric Nudis Sanford, and Don McCauley Jr. is also kind of joining in with us as we kind of really talk about what our future might be, our collective future, our individual future, our manly future, our female future. I say that I throw in the female guys because literally one of my most loyal readers, I mentioned who was coming on the show today, and normally the question is, am I having girls or guys or men or female, men or women? And so I said 3 guys, and she said, oh, I don't feel like listening to guys today. So, and that's the reality. And that's why you're having this event in my mind on Saturday, creating this event on Saturday, because again, the male image, what does it mean to be a male, to be accountable, to kind of not necessarily change the course of history, but to make history. Females are disenchanted with us. Some females are disenchanted with us, and very rightfully so. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show again. Eric, welcome. And Nude is your middle name.
Yes, Nude is what they call me by in the streets.
But on the streets. All right. Eric and Sean On Deck Reeves. Where did On Deck come from?
Well, so I took on deck when my son passed away.
All right. And Donald, you have any nicknames or street names that we could
DJ.
See, all right. DJ. So you mentioned the word on the streets. So something about life in the streets is coming up on Saturday. Let's jump right in, and Eric kind of kick us off about what's going to take place there. Sean kind of elaborate, and then I'm going to have Don kind of comment on the importance of it, and I'll throw in a few words as well. So this Saturday at what time?
Saturday at 3 p.m. at Stetson Library, Dixwell Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut, 3 to 5. But,
fill us in, man. This is radio. Tease us. Get us there, because it's free. It's open to the public.
Yes, it's free. Mm-hmm. It's a free event. It's open to the public. The agenda is geared towards men of color coming from the streets in New Haven. Even though you could come from Bridgeport, Hartford, wherever you like to come from, we just want to create a dialogue, the conversation to heal all the things that we've been through in the streets. And
again, and so this Saturday at what time?
This Saturday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Stetson Library.
Stetson Library on Dixwell Avenue. And Sean, kind of share some more. You both you guys have kind of you're co-presenting, co-hosting, kind of stirring the pot, and it's going to be a good pot.
So the goal is to rebuild relationships inside the community, but we can't even begin to rebuild relationships because as men we can't figure out how to get past the past. Most of us have been in the streets for a long period of time, all kinds of gun activity, jail time, a lot of the friends that we grew up with became enemies. Over the course of time. Now we're all adults, we're grown, we're fathers, we're out of the streets. We still don't have decent relationships because of all of that prior activity. Trust issues, we always still looking over our backs, amongst other things. Like, me personally, I put it like this: we came from a jungle. Our kids still live in this jungle. In order to make it a promised land, we got to change a lot of things.
Again, you listen to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Eric Nudis Sanford is here, Sean On Deck Reeves, and Donald McCauley Jr. Donald, weigh in a little bit. I asked Donald. Donald doesn't know this, but I think he may know this. I think I might have mentioned to him, but I'm mentioning it again publicly. He's going to be one of my sidekicks. If something comes up, I need to stand in. Kind of, he's going to be around, and he's working on his doctoral program at University of Connecticut in the School of Education. And any comments about what's taking place on Saturday that resonates with you?
I think it's very pressing. So I think it's definitely necessary. I think everyone watched the town hall on BET last night addressing policing in the schools, policing in the communities, cash bail bonds, and sitting down with some of the candidates that will be running for president to have conversations about what policies need to be in place that address some of the mental healing or the over policing that happens in our schools, where you have resource officers that pretty much operate as police officers within the schools and have these infractions that produce pipeline to prisons practices.
Excellent, excellent. Eric and Sean, when did you guys just woke up one morning? You were like hanging out. Is this is your inaugural effort? Your first effort,
yes.
And it's not going to be the last. I'm saying this now,
No.
and I say that because there are other. If on Saturday at what time again?
At 3 p.m.
3 p.m. on Stetson Library. If at Dixwell Church, if at Varick, if at Chucky Brewer's Church, if at St. Mark's, if there were identical events, men healing events going on at that same time, that wouldn't be enough.
No.
We if the same event was going on at Bishop Brooks's church, we need and at the Q House once it gets built. This is a 24/7, 365 kind of endeavor, and Donald mentioned the word health and mental health, et cetera, and just living and thriving and prospering and really remaining sane. There's not enough of that. I mean, and so you're not duplicating. What I'm trying to make. You guys are not duplicating these. There's a lot of other initiatives taking place that I think are really worthwhile, but this is worth checking out as well. Eric, so tell me, you guys, how did the idea? I'm always interested in like that tipping point idea. You had a dream, you had a vision, you said, we got to do it. Something you want to do for a long time.
It's something that we both been discussing for, I want to say, a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But one day on Facebook, I think I had made a post about healing,
mm-hmm.
and Sean commented, and I asked Sean what we're gonna do about it, and he said, we jumped in each other's inbox, we talked for a couple seconds, and we said, let's just do it, man. Let's just create a date. Yes. He told me he got a spot at Stetson Library. We said, let's just do it.
And shout out to Diane Brown and all the people involved with the New Haven Public Library system. If you visited any cities, I challenge you, ask your whatever city you're in, how many libraries there are, and then look at the small area. If you think of our libraries, the Fairhaven Library, Stetson Library, the Mitchell Library, Cortland Wilson Library, in such a small area, geographical area, to have these libraries. We're blessed in New Haven for that standpoint. So to take advantage of it is so key. And so Sean, you didn't have any reluctance. You were ready for it.
Well, no. I mean, again, I'm already involved with this kind of work.
Okay.
I'm co-founder of Sport Academy, and the word sport is an acronym. It stands for Street Poet Cipher Real Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Our main vision is to kind of resurrect this village back into the community.
Mm-hmm.
We need to heal from all aspects of the community.
Yes.
So, linking up with somebody of a like-minded situation, for me, it's a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
You know what I mean? We both going in the same direction. Why try to stop a train? That's already moving.
All right now. All right. Donald?
Nah, you guys are right on. You talk. I mean, obviously you have your book here about genocide, but there was cultural genocide, and there's still continued cultural genocide. And so, how can we create programs and create activities and create kind of energy so that these young men can thrive in the next future and not kind of see revolving doors?
Indeed. Gentlemen, kick in, because we do hear this word healing, HEALING. We do hear this word healing a lot, and I gotta. What's resonating in my mind is when the comment this morning that was made about listening to men. I think it's definitely fair to say, on a quantitative standpoint, the women have had like empowerment seminars and conferences, 5,000 ones a weekend for the last 10,000, the last 8 years in every city I can look at. I mean, they've been jumping. They realize that need. They're so far out in front of us, man. I don't know what to say.
Right.
But
rightfully so.
Rightfully so. All right.
I think that growing up in the streets, we taught to be tough. We're not taught to really deal with our emotions and our sensitivity. So it's definitely time that we talk about that now. So we right behind the woman. We backing them. We with them.
Okay.
Definitely. We took a holistic approach to it, like the mind, the body, and the spirit, instead of just like a lot of people just say, I'm gonna work on my health.
Yeah.
But you got to work your mind, your body, and your spirit together to become one. So just look at it this way.
Listen, it's time for us culturally to get ourselves in check. You know what I mean? By any means necessary. If that means we have to, you know, kind of dumb ourselves down from regular society and get into this holistic way of living.
Mm-hmm.
It's a necessity for us.
Mm.
You know, culturally, we don't really understand ourselves. We don't. Our family structures are strict. And people don't think it's important, but you know, that's the basis of a community. Every individual family. You know what I mean? And then all of those families come together as one whole family. I come from that. You know, but you know, me being a father now that's lost a son, everything that I did in the streets was like it was all in vain.
And you mentioned On Deck as kind of an homage or a recognition or acknowledgement of his.
So that's what he went by. Sean On Deck Reeves Jr. You know, on Facebook. That's what he was known in the streets. And when he passed, I took on the On Deck, you know, senior aspect.
Now, earlier on that Saturday, so we can give people two things to go to.
Oh, definitely.
So earlier on Saturday at Stetson, also shout out an additional shout out to Diane Brown. What can people kind of come and check out?
So from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., there's Sport Academy, Life Skills on 64 Squares. We're teaching life skills through chess. We're teaching kids chess, ages 5. We're teaching everybody chess. Anyone that wants to learn the game of chess can always stop in. There's always enough boards. There's always enough activities. And you can actually just come if you want to get to know a little bit more about Sport Academy and exactly what it is that we do.
And Eric, we met 2.5 or so 3 weeks ago.
Yes. My pleasure.
It's my pleasure to reciprocal. And so Eric and I are participating in something called the Neighborhood Residence Leadership Program under the auspices of the Community Foundation. And Sean and I are participating in something called the Social Innovation Lab, as well as Mr. McCauley here. But he got the big nut. He got the big cheese. Right. We got a little cookie. We got a little strip of cheese.
Well,
he got the big block. But that's all right. He deserves it.
Everybody's in position.
But Donald and Sean and I are involved with something at Dwight Hall through the Innovation Lab and resident kind of neighborhood leader. And I mentioned these two initiatives just to say that there are things available. There are things available, and just because it might not be a black-only event, that doesn't mean that we can't have a full ownership, I won't say dictatorship, but full participation within it.
Right.
And particularly a lot of, and for example, Yale has just started as a sidebar. Again, you're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Sean On Deck Reeves is here with me, and Eric Nudis Sanford and Donald McCauley Jr. But Yale has just announced a undergraduate major for urban studies. They never had a specific undergraduate major for urban studies. You could major in, say, architecture or public affairs or regionalism or other things. But the urban planning, and we know that New Haven's been a laboratory for like one of the first the first model city. So so we are still in a laboratory. We still are being experimented upon. But nonetheless, to participate in these initiatives and to kind of create our own definition of what change and outcomes should be is really, really key. So I encourage you to kind of take advantage of anything you might be aware of. But Eric, tell us a little bit about your project, because it again, I was really impacted when you talked about healing and mothers and trauma and just living life with an optimistic point of view.
Well, I come from a family where I lost 3 brothers in the streets, and I know the pain my heart, my mother, sisters, everybody in the family go through. So I felt like it was a need to start to talk about it. Like, you know, I mean, nobody really talks about the pain that the mothers or the children go through without growing up without their father. So I felt like I wanted to create through food. I feel like anytime you have food, people's gonna always come. So I'm looking forward to getting me a food stand any corner in New Haven City to just give out fruits, vegetables, breakfast to the kids, everything, just so we can sit and talk, like create a dialogue again. Because it's like I walk through my neighborhood and it's like I won't even speak to my neighbor. But I grew up in a time where you go to your neighbor and ask for some sugar. That whole culture is gone. So it's like I just want to bring that vibe back within the city. It's voided right now.
Really important. We brought in the book We Charge Genocide. We also brought in the book Shimei Morales was on our show last Monday and talked about the ABCs of the Black Panther Party. And as many of you know, the Black Panther Party started about the free breakfast program.
Exactly.
So wherever we look, there's sometimes historical kind of guideposts, but also if it's something that's never been done before, that's why you say just do it. You guys talk, just do it. and even if it's been done before, it might not be going on again. It might not be going on. So resurrection, revival, kind of the phoenix rising kind of thing is so key. It's so key for us. Um, Sean, talk a little bit about your program, if you will, the initiative under the Social Innovation Lab, because in terms of financial literacy, even if you think that we should have a socialist society, or whether you have universal income, a lot of these things are still theoretical. At the moment, we still have to deal with the capitalistic system. And I'll tell people, yeah, we want to change things, but as long as you're using the American dollar for exchange, you're supporting the system. And we don't have Mandela dollars just yet.
Right.
Although some people are working on it, having their own sense of currency, et cetera. But share a little bit about financial literacy and the need from your standpoint, from an educational standpoint, young people's standpoint, responsibility standpoint.
Well, so financial literacy is probably like another one of those great ailments in our community. We always talk about the lack of, but to understand money and its importance and what it can do for you as a person, as a family, as a community, can actually go a long way for our culture. Again, we've been taught to always give our dollars away, not save our dollars, not consolidate our money, and use it to benefit us as a community at large, right? So, when I was growing up, I remember they had banking in the school system. I used to go every week with a certain amount of money. We would go to the bank. We would be able to deposit money and learn how to deal with a banking transaction inside of a bank book. Those things kind of carried my generation into, a decent space, not the greatest space, but a decent space. But after the generations after us, I don't even think that we're really teaching financial literacy in our homes, but then generations following us, there's no financial literacy whatsoever. We spend our money on fashion before we spend our money on life insurance policies. You know what I mean? We'll spend our money on food before we spend our money on a major necessity. We don't save.
We'll still buy it from your truck, but
yeah, right. We don't invest in any of our minority-owned businesses inside the community, to help their growth. So and it's just because we have a lack of understanding.
Yes.
So due to major lacks of understanding in all areas, it's just time to start trying to replace information inside of our community.
Indeed.
We come from a self-improvement aspect in Sport Academy. We can't change anyone, but we can give you tools and give you information that will allow you to transform your own life if that's what you choose.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Eric Newton Stanford is here, and John On Deck Reeves is here, and Donald McCauley Jr. What's taking place on Saturday?
Saturday, we have the men's conference at 3 p.m. from 3 to 5 at Stetson Library, Dixwell Avenue, New Haven.
200 Dixwell Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut.
All right, and why should I come out?
You should come out to help create a awareness of a different type of healing besides alcoholism, drug addiction, and types of things like that. We just want to create a forum for men to come out and talk about the problems that they're going through, so we can all be one and create some type of unity back in the community.
Right. Even if you don't feel that you have an issue, just come out and be supportive of the event. We're young men coming from a lifestyle, trying to really alter our lifestyles and get into a new aspect of life. We're out here losing a lot of generations, so we're actually trying to start saving ourselves. And if we can't get it from the outside, then we're going to start doing it from within.
I'm just excited to hear about the things that are going on. I think I'm kind of going back. I don't want to go far back on the point, but you brought about 3 men being here and then women. Black men really have never had a real movement. We've always attached ourselves in terms of just masculinity, and so the things that we've praised sometimes are not the things that follow us in a positive way. And so black women have what they would perceive as the black feminist movement, or partnering with the feminist movement, but also being identified sometimes as a double minority, and understanding that how do we move forward collectively in terms of the woman's struggle is our struggle, in terms of our cultural existence. And so how do we put practices in place that, when you say that there's a lot of locations, it's like we need to still consolidate and be able to support and understand, like, give me feedback, give me your minutes from your meeting so that I can see what you guys learned over there, so that we can have a conversation and not just, oh, mine is mine, yours is yours, but someone got to be able to share that. And sometimes that happens in the good news.
Yes, indeed. Again, you're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show. And Donald, I want you to kick off. We're going to take a little bit of a turn. And just before we do, Sean, what's taking place on Saturday?
Well, There's a men's conference over at Stetson Library, 200 Dixell Avenue, 3 to 5 p.m.
All right. And the word, give me some. We've all seen this phrase, taglines. So healing would be one tagline. What be another word? Health,
responsibility,
wealth,
fatherhood,
family.
One
more.
Friends.
Good.
Relationship.
And relation. All right. So Donald, the turn I want to take is, and gentlemen, when Donald was here previously, we talked about male behavior and the fact that the certain males or a certain cohort of folks will have several children by several different mothers, and how that might be a behavior that is sometimes sought after, replicated, or even behavior that the person is proud of, and the pros and cons of that. So Donald, kind of recapitulating, I want to get your thoughts.
So actually, I was reading last night, and so last night when I was reading $40 Million Slave, and it gives an example about Floyd Patterson and when he fought Sonny Liston, and how society defined what Sonny Liston in terms of he had just been incarcerated. So he came out, and then now he's boxing and fighting in the heavyweight bout. Most of the work that was coming out was that this person was not a symbol of the civil rights movement. And so we see kind of respectability politics playing itself out where society will define what's appropriate. And sometimes as a response to not wanting to follow a system or conform, you just choose the opposite, which doesn't necessarily mean we choose what we want for ourselves. So in terms of what hypersexuality is, or in terms of what respectability politics are, when we choose the opposite, sometimes it's really just we exist in a binary where it's just like, I just didn't choose one, so I chose 0. And then it becomes this thing that as men, we start giving to our kids, and it's also inside the community, it's in our sport. And even though we don't address it kind of directly in terms of it being a trait, but if you watch mainstream sports and you see the lifestyle they live in, whether it's fake or real for the actors and the rappers, it's that the kids aspire for that. And they don't really have any context of this is not really real, or this is real, but it's also maybe a deviant behavior or maybe someone's shortcoming. So in terms of you taking someone's vice and someone monetizing it, and then you believe in it and accepting it for yourself because that's the world you want to live in, and everything else kind of fills itself after that.
So, so just continue that theme in terms of the relationship between males and females, and males sometimes feeling that having children from different mothers is almost like something to be prideful of, and almost a merit badge.
So I think when we clarified that, I think we were talking about hyper masculinity in terms of guys wanting to get with women. So in terms of what fatherhood actually is, and having multiple children and being responsible for your children is not always consistent. And so the conversation is, how do young Black men focus on how do I have meaningful relationships, or how do I work towards meaningful relationships with the opposite sex, and when do I need to wait? I mean, me thinking now back on just the progression, when your grandparents tell you to wait for certain reasons because you're waiting towards marriage and what that is as a task, then you sometimes make your marriage more difficult because you have other baggages as you're coming into the situation already. And so that's a whole nother conversation that you're not prepared for, in terms of if your grandparents just said, wait, maybe the situation would have been smoother, and you would have walked into situations and being able to say, well, I just graduated college, seek the world, go abroad, do whatever you're going to do so that you can find yourself, so you can be the best possible man in your situation.
And Eric, so when we were talking briefly during one of the breaks, and that's why I deliberately, again, you're just getting to know me, so now you know me a little better. But watch out, I still got some new tricks too. So don't think you know all the things. But I was asking Eric deliberately about that question, not referencing all the context of it. And your answer was so profound to me about your commitment to your family.
Well, I just recently got married, and it's funny Donald said that. It's because he's right on point about how you can live so much life and you have all this baggage and you bring it into a marriage, versus you meeting this woman during your college years and you settling down now and y'all just growing and growing and growing and growing together. You will have more years in. So it takes time with everything, and you got to evolve. So it's funny that he said that, and I would like to know more about that, Donald. But me personally, I mean, fatherhood is what changed my life. Like, I mean, I was in the streets until I had my daughter. I had my daughter and I had a vision. And after that, it was just like, I would never go back to drug dealing, carrying guns, anything that would take me away from my daughter, because this is my responsibility. This is my creation. So it's like, after that, it was all for the family after that. And with my wife, stayed with my wife, and now we happily married with 2 kids.
And I mean, Facebook is open. Even if I'm not a friend of yours on Facebook, I can still look at your page unless you're kind of restricted. And you have such a lovely picture up that you, your wife, and
my wedding picture.
Yeah, with the little people. Sean,
Me personally, Tom, I got 4 children by 4 different women. Always was one of those kids that wanted to kind of have all my children in one household. Life took a spin. Fortunate though, blessed. I have 4 beautiful children. All of their moms are great women. Take care of those kids responsibly, and I just made it my personal business as a father to make sure that I have great communication with all of them. And that I'm a part of all of my children's lives, no matter what. So that's my first main responsibility. I come from a household that I didn't know my father until after my son passed. I probably was like 40. You know what I mean? He only lived a hop, skip, and a jump inside the city, but to each his own. One thing I do now is, as life is continuing on, I'm learning more and more about life, more and more about the importance of family structure. What I do, and the things that I couldn't get passed on to me. My intention is to pass it on to my seeds to make them a little bit better. Moving forward. Even other community members, like since my son's death, I've been afforded to be able to conference with a lot of these young men who might not have a father in their life, stuff like that. So, my goal is to give them, to strip them of the nonsense, right? And give them the good stuff, the real stuff that I found out after 40 years. It's better to be with the one woman that was that woman, but that masculinity and that pride and all of that stuff had you doing all of this other stuff, and then you wind up losing out.
Yes.
And I was married for, with my wife for 20-something years, man. Great marriage. I messed it up. Not being 100% prepared, but that woman prepared my life to a point where I understood the importance of having great relationships with my other baby mother.
Yes.
Making sure that all my children interacted and intertwined with each other, even when I was incarcerated. She took care of those things. So that's the flip side of having those great women. You know what I mean, in your life.
We should. So you're ready for Saturday.
Definitely ready.
What I
for
think
Saturday.
is you're ready for Saturday. I'm gonna have to charge you for this practice. You know what I mean? And my coaching. And I laugh and say that, and you can't say it too much. And if you say that same thing on Saturday, you might say it differently. You might say it. People will hear it differently. You might feel it differently. So I mean, this thing about the pretense of protecting our vulnerability, kind of. It's challenging for us. It's difficult too, but as you say, it's needed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We have to let the guard down.
Right.
I'm saying our kids need to understand that it's not always about being tough. Right now, that's all they think about is being tough. They don't know how to express themselves. They don't know how to recognize their feelings and then talk to somebody. And it's up to us to change these practices.
And Donna, you have 2 children, right?
Yes, I do.
And you have one up here with you, and one down south, I believe.
Yep, in Virginia.
Don't need to go into the specifics, but just kind of elaborate on that, because I really appreciate. I think our listeners and audience, and again, we'll send this tape out, are and will deeply appreciate the transparency and the sincerity that you guys have evoked, have shared already. And you're a little person. You're the mother and the father.
Yes.
Right.
So I have a boy and a girl. I had my son when I was in college, and so that was one of a very difficult situation. I had a lot of support from my family that was traveling down, coming to the football games, but understanding that I wanted him to understand both sides of his family, and I've always had that support in those situations where being in separate households and understanding maybe that wasn't my expectation for him, but things did play themselves out like that. And now that I have my little girl, she's here all the time, and so with her being here with the work, with the Yale work, having the strong family support is important. And I go back on Like I grew up with both my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather just passed away a year ago, and he was 90, 92. My grandmother's 90, 93 right now. So essentially, I've lived through. My children have been able to see their great grandchild or their great grandparent through their whole transition. Even in now, so my son's 10, so he knows where the house is. He's been there, and so being able to see that for my daughter, she can see her great grandmother, and everyone can't be able to say that they're 93.
Again, Eric New to Stanford is with us, and Sean Ondeck Reeves and Donald McCauley Jr. This is the Tom Ficklin Show, and Eric, what's taking place on Saturday?
Saturday, New Haven, 200 Dixwell Avenue. We have a men's conference. Come out, let your voice be heard. New Haven, Connecticut, stand up.
At Stetson Library, and this is not going to be the last.
No,
just when you guys are talking about unity in the community, et cetera, and I guess I mentioned you, I think, as a sidebar when we had the break during our initial orientation for the neighborhood leadership, that historically here in New Haven, Pastor Donald Morris has had the unity and community things. He's had the Brothers Getting Busy. He's had community Christian Community Commission, and I mentioned his 3 decades of trying to bring the men together, but things stop and start, and sometimes you got to pass the baton down also. Right. And so just because Donald has done his thing, you guys will hopefully do your thing for the next 2 or 3 decades, and then someone else will pick it up. And so how young should people, if I want to bring like a 12-year-old on my son or my son that might be 12 on Saturday, do you think that would be premature? What's your advice?
No, bring them out.
Never too early to learn.
I think if you have a 5-year-old that's astute enough to kind of sit through the process, bring them out. It's only going to help them in the future. It's never too early, like you said.
Okay, so that's from the village standpoint, then that makes sense.
Right.
Excellent.
They need to see men that might cry, right, and they need to understand it's okay. They need to see men hug and know that that's okay too. You know what I mean? A lot of the things that they don't get to see, they need to see, because this is what we do.
Excellent.
This is what we do.
One of the things I want to add to when you say passing the baton, and one thing I try to teach the young kids, it's not really about passing the baton. It's about giving the bag back. So technically, the baton on a track, it's that I'm behind the individual and I hand it off. So essentially, what you really want to do is you want to have to run past them.
Good.
And then you give it to them so they can run.
Okay.
Because sometimes even athletics, sometimes we put pressure on our children to be better than us, but we're the adult, and so even our shortcomings are the best model for the child to not make the mistake, as opposed to just.
I like that.
As we're running.
I like that too. Yeah.
So you got to go past them, throw it back, and then regardless where you are, the child respects the fact that you kept it. You were transparent with me about your experience, so that I can navigate and run the way I want to run.
Excellent. You got if Donald can't make it on Saturday, you got to throw that in. Give him a footnote though. Give him a footnote. But throw that's so important in terms of the importance of language and our metaphors, and just creating a holistic kind of dynamic in our language. Our language sometimes is more discrete and separate, and not as collective in our collective inspiration. So I appreciate you making that clarification. Donald, take a minute and talk about your academic work, because as I was reading something about less than 3%. In terms of black people, more black women have doctorate degrees than men. Clearly to say, but even if you add up the men and women, the black who identify with African descent that have PhDs, that number is low. That number is low. I mean, it's low in the general population, but that number is low. And
we know a lot of them couldn't get in because other people was getting bribed.
Yeah, and we know about the various obstacles in the system, and just how it's not always stacked in our favor. But just share about your focus at the moment from an academic standpoint.
I'm gonna try to be brief. So currently I'm a PhD student at the University of Connecticut, where I study the exploitation of student athletes. And so I address some of the educational policies or educational inequities, addressing how sport can be detrimental if it's not used properly, but also giving the historical context in terms of, you think about waves of participation, and originally when we came into the sport, we were trying to define ourselves as creating legitimate authority, and so the legitimate talent. So African Americans weren't included because individuals' perceptions were that they were not able to manage their emotions, or they were not able to play a complex game and also in an integrated space. And so what happened was they created legitimate talent, and so integration happens, and individuals create what we consider access. And so we see kids coming into sport because it's about access. It gives me uniforms. And so sometimes that becomes an exploitation in a very large system sport complex that we're making millions of dollars, and the kid says, I can just get gear. I get to go to a school that has a pool, has a gym, and I don't have to need a membership. I can go to the library. And so you have all this access, but the exchange, the cost exchange, or the benefit exchange is not, it's not fair. And then we get further in talking about how do athletes get into spaces where they're able to use their authority and influence. And so the athlete comes out of college. Are they able to have opportunities to speak to their high school teams or travel the world and use their own platform, as opposed to once the institution is done with you, what are you going to do after that? And most people don't have that kind of conversation with the student athlete because a lot of them are just being monetized on a day-to-day basis. And so we addressed role engulfment or other social theories that play into the individual, where how does sport affect their relationship with family? And sometimes for first generation student athletes or students, one of the biggest challenges is that if that individual does not graduate in a certain time frame, it may deter everyone else from doing it. Because sometimes in certain families, they build one person up to be the pioneer, and they will set the trend for the rest of the family. But if that person goes to school thinking about, wow, if I don't graduate in 4 years, no one else in my family may decide to go, because they may perceive that I'm the smartest, and if the smartest can't get it done, we're just not going to do this anymore. And so those become challenges and conversations you want to have with parents about what's the realistic thing. The realistic thing is that African American males do not graduate traditionally within 4 or 5 years, and their graduation rate at some institutions is probably 30 to 40%. And that's just the realistic thing. African American males in higher ed that are hired, most of them have come through predominantly white institutions, where sometimes they're only 10 or 12% of the population on campus, and that's including the athletic population. So sometimes you have alienation when you get on campus, where what we call it is invisible is visible. So when you see a black student, sometimes the school has a perception that that's an athlete, and that may be a student. And so now you have this identity where like, why are you here? They're like, well, don't you play the basketball team? Like, no, they may have came on an engineering scholarship, and they may have been a prominent student, and so they don't never find a space on campus for themselves, and sometimes it pushes them out, or there's identity struggles in terms of how do I create my own space on this campus, which is not inclusive to me. And you may even have a diversity office or NAACP or Black Student Union or any of those things.
You see, you got a competitor here.
Listen,
he can roll. He can roll. Can he roll?
I like information.
Can he roll?
He can roll.
Can he roll?
Keep it going.
But the thing is, and that's why, I think you agree, Donald, that sometimes the athlete his or her identity is so wrapped up on the field or on the court or in the swimming pool that once that's over, they're kind of lost in terms of who they are as a person. Not to mention that their career objectives might be undefined.
I mean, there's transferable skills, and so you have to, like, we talk about the power of the metaphor. I can make a metaphor in terms of giving the bag or the analogy, but if you don't have those kind of concepts in terms of talking about chess and thinking about all the pieces on the court, what we have more so, if I describe basketball, you may have a team where you have 5 guards. They may all be different sizes, but they're all trying to do the same thing, and that's not going to be a good team. And then you take statistics in terms of, well, how many guards in the world are there of multiple sizes? So a school's going to make a selection. Or you take about academics. Individuals that come through high school to have a 2.0 or 2.5, that only puts them in contact with maybe 40% of colleges that can offer scholarships. So you're not even able to access all the schools, but you're only playing for access. And so then you have to have programs that put academic achievement in place so that student athletes say, listen, I need a 3.5. Not because I really love school, but because I need a 3.5 in order for me to get where I need to get. And that's sometimes we describe it, man, I got to make decisions that I may not want to do, but it's what I need to do to get further.
Right.
And we're jumping around. We have maybe 8 or 9 minutes, but that's where the sport, just the word for Sean to use the word sport academy. And then when they get there and they're playing chess and not shooting the ball, that's so share a little bit, just as we kind of wind down. We're gonna get some closing remarks and a few other comments about how you and Miss. We got to give a shout out to someone that went over to the Middle East. Where'd you go? Dubai? Somebody? You're partner with somebody?
Over to Dubai. Edward Trimble.
Yeah,
Edward Trimble. Big shout out to Edward Trimble.
Yeah.
Boy,
Did he get a scholarship to go over there? His own ducats.
Listen, I don't know.
I understand. Don't put all his business on blast. But we know that Dubai is not around the corner. It's not like buying a pass to a lighthouse or nothing like that.
No,
I mean it's all right. But anyway, but Mr. Trimble, you guys are kind of the code.
You know, and he's an enlightening mind. You know, that academy actually probably saved me from taking a very detrimental action that I couldn't figure out how to get around at one particular point. In the word sport, you know, again, it's an acronym. It stands for Street Poets Cipher Real Truth. Mr. Trimble uses that chessboard in a way that that promotes life like I never understood it before. You know what I mean? Coming from a tight-knit family structure, you know, going through the trials and tribulations, watching the breakdown of families, being able to sit amongst 32 pieces on a black and white square, and put all of that back together. You know, it was amazing for me. You know, and every other thing that he throws in the mix of that pot is just, you know,
excellent.
It's astronomical.
Excellent. Sean on deck Reeves is here, and Eric Nuda Sanford, and Donald McCauley Jr. And Eric, was taking place on Saturday.
Saturday we had a men's conference in New Haven, Stetson Library, 200 Dixwell Avenue. Come out, bring your sons, bring your fathers, your cousins, your uncles.
From what time?
From 3 to 5 p.m.
Excellent. Any kind of closing points you'd like to make? We talked about really the important thing of healing, and I mean this is just not talking. I mean, people. You have therapists. Correct me, Donna. And we have therapists, psychologists, and psychiatric organizations, social workers. I'm not kind of condemning social workers or psychiatrists or psychologists, but as we speak right now, throughout the planet, there are people sitting one-on-one or in groups, understanding the need to communicate, alcoholic groups. Right. So this human need to commune is not it's not just for everybody. It's not just for them. I mean, it's for us as well.
This is therapy before therapy.
Yeah. So just kind of any closing thoughts about why you want to be involved and what kind of comes to your mind.
I mean, if you want to help bring some life back into community, keep your brothers out of jail, keep you from going to funerals, keep you from having to pay people commissary, just come out. Child support, all that comes along with it. We know the prison system is a big business. Maybe that's the reason why some people don't really want to create the healing within the streets, because it's a business. It's a business that all in one. So, I mean, Saturday, if you got the time, just come out. Maybe we could go live or something like that. If you can't come out, we bring it to Facebook. You know,
Definitely. Good, Sean.
You know, again, everything that Eric said, and then, you know, male support is needed in the community. The community can't thrive without our help. You know, our women, you know, they put the brunt of the work on their back for many years now. You know, it's just time for us to start playing our part. You know, becoming more active. And most males I know have a burning desire to want to do better. They just don't really know how to.
Yes.
So let's begin the conversation and figure out what to do next.
Yes, good. Donald?
I think everybody's kind of put the point on, so it's just strategizing. There are a lot of black males that are in the community that want to get involved sometimes in the schools, and it's a very important thing to have more dialogue and more conversation about, again, the policing that happens in school, that happens very early, sometimes in kindergarten. And obviously, I think the New Haven school systems or Connecticut no longer allow suspensions for kids that are in kindergarten or pre-K. But a lot of times in New Haven, those individuals are being put out to schools, and so they're missing those early days in terms of early childhood development. So I think strategically having the conversation about what's the plan of action to move forward and revitalizing the community so that we can see what we used to see maybe 20 years ago. And I'm only 32, so I seen it. I seen it as well.
Excellent. Harry, thank you, and Paul Bass, thank you. And I always like to lift up Paul's name as kind of the Moses of New Haven Independent, as well as the WNHH, and again, to secure the low power license, to go through the bureaucratic and governmental procedures and policies and legalities of establishing a station where we can share our information, share our strategies really worldwide, you know, through the benefit of the internet. So I'd like to kind of give a shout out to them, and just a shout out to you three for kind of being here with me this morning and kicking off.
Thanks for having us.
See you soon.
I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road, lights, camera, action, I'm ready to go. never fall down. I just gotta get up, hey. Yeah, this is my road. Lights, camera, action, I'm ready to go. Way too long, we faced them storms. Now you gon' face the dawn you waited for. I said from night to dawn, I right my wrongs alone.